Question A1. Business risk is the uncertainty related with a firm's projection of its future operating income. There are many factors that influence business risk, for example, special risk factors, amount of operating leverage used by the firm, variability in the price at which its output can be sold, and etc. Number 2. Operating leverage is the amount to which fixed operating costs are utilized in the firm's operation. If an excessive percentage of the firm's total operating costs are fixed and therefore do not decrease when demand falls, then the firm is said to be high operating leverage. Being other things remaining constant, the greater a firm's operating leverage, the greater its business risk. Question B1. Financial leverage generally means the firm's decision to finance with fixed charge securities such as debt and preferred stock. It is referred as the additional risk borne by the stockholders as a result of the firm's decision to finance with debt. Number 2. Business risk relies on a number of factors such as sales and cost variability and operating leverage, while financial risk, on the contrary, depends on only one factor, which is the amount of fixed charge capital financing the company uses. Question C1. For the firm L, the interest is 1,200, taxes 700, the net income 1,080, the ROE is 10.8% and the TIE is 2.5. Number 2, the EROE for the firm U is 9% and the EROE for the L is 10.8%. Therefore, the use of financial leverage has increased the expected profitability to shareholders, thus causing the higher expected ROE for firm L. In a total risk sense, firm L is 2 times riskier than firm U. Its business risk is 2.12%, but total risk is 4.24%, so its financial risk is 4.24%. The leverage has a negative effect on profitability. However, the expected level of EBIT, ROE firm L is bigger than firm U. Leverage will increase expected ROE if the expected unlevered ROA transcends the after-tax cost of debt. So here, the use of debt raises expected ROE. Finally, note that the TIE ratio is high, undefined, or infinitely large if no debt is used, but it is relatively less if 50% debt is used. The expected TIE will be larger than 2.5 if less debt were used. On the other hand, it is smaller if leverage were increased. Question D1. The optimal capital structure means the capital structure at which the tax-related benefits of leverage absolutely offset by debt risk-related costs. At this structure, the total value of the firm is maximized, the WACC is minimized, and the price per share is maximized. Number 2, here's the sequence of events. First, CDSS must announce its recapitalization plans. Then, approximate the price that has to be paid to repurchase shares, and method to be employed: open market purchases or tender offer. Next, investors apparently receive their views for firm's profitability and risk underlying new capital structure. Stock price can increase. And lastly, CDSS will purchase stock first, issue debt, and then use the proceeds to pay for repurchased stock. After the recapitalization, the company will have more debt but fewer common shares which are still outstanding. a new EPS will be calculated and the price will settle into new level. For question 3, the formula of EPS and TIE have shown here. So at depth 0, the EPS is 3 and the TIE is infinity. At depth 250,000, the EPS is 3.26 and the TIE is 20. At depth 500,000, the EPS is 3.89 and the TIE is 9.1. At depth 750,000, the EPS is 3.89 and the TIE is 5.1. Lastly, at depth 1 million, the EPS is 4.08 and the TIE is 3.1. Question 4. Because of this case, all earnings are paid out to the stockholders, therefore DPS equal to EPS. Because no earnings are plowed back, the firm's EBIT is not expected to grow, so G is equal to 0. The results are shown below. So the maximum stock price is $21.58, which the debt level is 500,000. The DPS is 3.56. The rate is 16.5 and the stock price is $21.58.
So for question D5, considering that capital structure that include debts of 500,000 results in the highest stock price of $21.58 per share. So it is the optimal capital structure for CDSS. So for question 4, for question D6, based on our observation, EPS continues to rise at a consistent rate after reaching a debt level of 500,000. So our suggestion is to not place too much emphasis on EPS when making these decisions regarding the capital structure of a company, because EPS does not take into account the different costs associated with the different types of debt, or the growing risks that must be borne by those who held equity in the company. And for question D7, the weighted average cost of capital at the optimal capital structure. So we have the calculation as shown here in the slide. So since we does not incur any debt yet, so we will just multiply the stock price with the existing shares, and as you can see here, the amount of weighted average cost of capital that we get is 14.03%. So for question E, if the firm had higher business risk, then regardless of the debt level, it have greater probability of financial distress. And the outcome of would be a capital structure with the least amount of debt. On the other hand, a capital structure with the higher proportion of debt would be ideal for a business with lower business risk. Investors would be aware of this, and both cost of debt and cost of equity would turn out to be higher than anticipated. So these are some factors that we can consider while making capital structure decisions. So the first is we need to consider the average debt ratio for the firms in their industry. The next is the tax rate. Their reserve borrowing capacity, the effects on financing on control, And lastly, a firm's capital structure. So for question G, uh, the asymmetric information concept is established based on the premise that the management's choice of financing give signals to investors. So, for example, firms with good investment opportunities will tend to finance with debt rather than stock, uh, while firms with poor prospects will prefer to finance with stock. So, uh, investors recognize this as a signal when a large major firm or company started to to announce a stock offering, and that will cause the stock prices to drop. So, in order to avoid this scenario, this case happens, uh, most firms will keep a reserve of borrowing capacity on hand so that when good opportunities arise, they can easily be financed with that.